We have some good news. We have some bad news. Bad news is looks like CJ Stroud will not be playing this weekend, or most likely won't be. We'll get to some other injury updates, but let's start it off with the tight end rankings. Starting off with the trio of guys at the very top. I know we've had a lot of people now wanting to rank Sam Laporta ahead of Travis Kelce, and I completely understand where you were coming from. And that, yeah, Kelce is a tight end that looks worse this year than he did the year prior, than he did the year before that. The man's 34 years old. I mean, there's a reason we weren't drafting him in round one this year, but he still is the tight end one. He's averaging 15.8 points per game, comparison to Laporta at 14.7, Hockenson at 14.9. While, yeah, Hockenson is averaging more than Laporta so far this season, just like we did last week, we are still going to rank Sam Laporta at 2 overall because these averages are really going to be skewed with the Kirk Cousins games, which are going to be significantly worse than what we have with Minnesota right now. And then also when you add Justin Jefferson out of this offense. So like I said, Hockenson is in a worse situation today than he was earlier in the offseason. Now, dropping down to our next tier, there are a lot of tight ends that are really exciting. We're going to go with George Kittle at 4. With Kittle, you just have the implied team total. I mean, it's hard to get away with how good this offense is and the touchdown upside. I mean, maybe you want to throw David Njoku here. Njoku's crushing with 100-yard games, consistently double-digit targets. McBride, we can say the same thing. Honestly, you make an argument that McBride should be in tier 1, and then Evan Ingram should be in a much better spot this week, under the assumption that Trevor Lawrence does play. We know when you have no Kirk here, Ingram is going to get targeted heavily. So I know it looks like, oh, Mason, you're really low on Trey McBride, having McBride as your tight end 6. McBride could very easily be tight end 4 in these rankings. Really, it's just however your personal preference wants to have it with the guys in this tier. If I'm going to go over to Underdog to look at the pick'ems, you currently have George Kittle at 46.5 receiving yards. You have David Njoku currently not listed. Hopefully they get him out tomorrow. You have Trey McBride at 65.5. So I'm actually sorry. If McBride's at 65.5, he has to be tier 1. I mean, if you're looking at the volume that he has had as of late, this is a tight end that's sitting with 11 targets last week, 9 targets the week prior, 9 targets the week before that. Over the past 3 games, he is out there averaging a little over 80 yards per game as well. So yeah, I'm sorry. We are going to be moving Trey McBride up there to tier 1. But moving on beyond this, we will go Dalton Kincaid at 8. With Kincaid, you'll see later on that we do have Josh Allen as the top dog this week. They have the highest implied team total of any team in the NFL. Now, an issue that you may run into is you're going up against the Chargers, or the spread's absolutely massive. They could just easily run the ball like they did last week. You'd only have 30 yards for the pick'em on Dalton Kincaid currently. He's coming off a game where he had 2 targets last week, which is abysmal, but he did have 8 targets the week before. So to be completely honest with you, I wouldn't even mind going with more than 30.5 receiving yards for Kincaid this week. Our next guy will be Dallas Goedert. With Dallas Goedert, this is a tight end that I drafted a ton of. We took the fewer than like 43.5 receiving yards on Underdog a week ago. Got lucky that the lower hit because he was flooded with targets. He did have 9 targets in that game. Back-to-back games, only 30 yards though. I mean, it's a spot against the Giants, very similar to what you have with Kincaid against the Chargers. This should be an offense that's able to just run the ball over and over and over again. We'll go Jake Ferguson at 10. With Ferguson, should be in a shootout with Miami. Right now, the highest over-under of any game this week will between the Dallas Cowboys and the Miami Dolphins. So I can be excited about that. We'll go Cole Kmet at 11. Now, this week is the one week where you can be very excited about your Chicago Bears. I mean, y'all know typically I am not a fan of Justin Fields. Typically, I'll say Justin Fields is not a great real life quarterback. He's good in fantasy because he's going to run the ball a ton, but the passing volume shouldn't be there. Well, right now you have a 24-point implied team total going up against the Arizona Cardinals. So it doesn't matter what I may or may not think about Justin Fields. I think Fields is going to be great this week. I think the entire Bears offense is going to be great this week. It's a great matchup going up against the Cards, and Vegas is telling us it will be with their implied team total. Now, Dalton Schultz will be here at 12 with Schultz. You move him down just a bit if you have no CJ Stroud. A lot's going to be up in the air with both CJ Stroud and Nico Collins. As of now, it looks like you have no Stroud, so we're probably going to move Schultz down. But if you also have no Nico Collins and the target volume should consistently be there, then we are fine going ahead and ranking Schultz at 12. Our next tier will be led off with Darren Waller. With Waller, you're going up against the Eagles. You have an implied team total of about 15.5 points. He actually has a higher yardage pick'em on Underdog than what you have with someone like Dalton Kincaid, For example, you have Kincaid at 30.5 receiving yards, whereas Darren Waller is at 36.5. But we are typically chasing those players in better offenses because you have a higher probability of scoring a touchdown. I mean, for example here, Darren Waller is sitting with a 2.25x multiplier to score a touchdown on Underdog, whereas Kincaid is only at a 2x multiplier. So just because the touchdown upside is limited for the Giants offense, be a little bit lower on Waller. Isaiah Likely is someone that I can be more excited about than where we rank him here. The issue for this week is going to be it's a very tough matchup going up against the Niners, where typically you see the Ravens project out to have 24, 25 points in their offense. And this week instead, it's hovering around 20.5. Taysom Hill will be our next guy at 15. Taysom, incredibly volatile option from week-to-week perspective. Obviously, an insane ceiling, but a very low floor at the same time. We'll go Hunter Henry at 16. Henry coming off a big week this past week, but he didn't practice today, so I don't know if he's fully healthy. You have an applied team total of 14 points for the New England Patriots here as well. So the Pats do project out to be the worst offense in the NFL this week. And then our last tier, we'll throw Pitts, Logan Thomas, Pat Freiermuth here. All those guys that you're not really excited about starting at all. I know Logan Thomas has been much better than these other names so far this season, but I do think he belongs with them just because you're going up against the Jets, where right now you have a 17-point applied team total for Washington, which is much lower than what you're used to for the Commanders, but it's just a brutal matchup going up against the Jets. Now let's move this over to our quarterback rankings, starting off with Josh Allen. Looking at Allen, this is a quarterback that currently is sitting at 240.5 passing yards on Underdog, currently 28.5 rushing yards, 272.5 total yards. They have the highest implied team total in the NFL this week. Josh Allen is the quarterback one from a points per game perspective. I mean, we've seen the floor is there just given his rushing floor, and the ceiling is there given what he can do as a rusher as well. Same thing with Jalen Hurts. While I understand, Hurts wasn't necessarily great this past week from a real life perspective, it doesn't matter. Jalen Hurts with his rushing production is someone that you need to be starting and ranking as that elite level option every single week. They currently have him at 37.5 rushing yards for his Underdog pick'em. They have him at even odds for more than less than 1.5 passing touchdowns. And then obviously you can pretty much pencil in Jalen Hurts to have a rushing touchdown as well. Both offenses project out to score 27 plus points. Both quarterbacks are going to run the ball. Both guys are in their own tier. And of course, if you wanted to check out any of these pick'ems over on Underdog, you can find that link in the description, in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK will get you a 100% deposit match, plus our rankings over the next 2 weeks. And on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, a Matthew Stafford special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard for the game tonight. My other favorite pick'em on Underdog currently is going to be Chris Olave for more than 62.5 receiving yards now that he is fully good to go. Now, jumping down to our next tier, we're going to go Mahomes. I understand Mahomes been worse than usual this year. Yes, he's not quarterback one. I am not going to put him in tier one, but you still have 26.5 points for his implied team total. He's still Patrick Mahomes. And then the surprise of the week will be Justin Fields sneaking himself in here at 4. Typically, I'm not a big Fields guy. Typically, we expect the Bears offense to be very bad, but Justin Fields to be viable just based off of rushing upside. But now he's actually supposed to be in a decent offense this week. And then, of course, he still has his rushing upside. Implied team total, 24 points. Great matchup against the Cardinals. All the rushing upside in the world. I am 100% fine starting Justin Fields. Then our next tier, we're going to go with a couple guys that aren't going to run the ball, but should be playing in high-scoring offenses. We'll be going with Purdy, Dak Prescott, and Tua. I mean, all their offenses projected me at a similar range to the Chicago Bears this week, which is very surprising. But the difference is Fields going to have the rushing production, right? Where Purdy has an applied team total of 26 points. It's a tough matchup going up against Baltimore. Dak an applied team total of 24. Tua an applied team total 25.5. Now, I am making these rankings under the assumption that Tyreek Hill will be good to go. Tyreek Hill did not practice on Wednesday. I'm assuming that's normal. I'm assuming that he's going to be good to go this weekend. I'm sending up a prayer. Our Best Ball Mania team right now in the semifinals has both Jonathan Taylor and Tyreek Hill. Players are going to be at very low ownership with crazy ceilings. I think we actually have a shot to take down Best Ball Mania. So I'm rooting for Tyreek and Tua this week. And then our next two guys will be Lamar and Kyler Murray. With these players, you're going to be in worse offenses overall. With Lamar, you have an implied team total of 20.5 points. With Kyler, you have an implied team total of 19.5, but you do have rushing upside to go along with it. And now dropping down to our next tier, you can kind of throw Goff and Stafford, honestly, in the same tier as Purdy if you really want to. I mean, they're similar to Purdy, Dak, Tua, in that you're not going to have any rushing upside at all, but you will have the passing volume. Both quarterbacks are sitting with an implied team total of 25 points. I'm going to go Goff over Stafford just because typically, if I can, I avoid the randomness of a Thursday night game where it makes sense. And then obviously Jared Goff coming off a massive performance. But if you do look at the points per game for Jared Goff this season, he's still only sitting as that low-end quarterback 1, high-end quarterback 2, based off the fact that he doesn't have rushing upside. I mean, a quarterback that has literally 3 rushing yards per game is going to have tough time competing over a large sample. Somebody's going out there and running the ball for 35. Now, our next tier will be guys with upside, but definitely a lower floor overall. We're going to be going Trevor Lawrence, Baker Mayfield, and Gardner Minshew. With Lawrence, we don't know if he'll be good. He did not practice on Wednesday, but that should be expected. I think right now you have Vegas really leaving the spread off of this Jacksonville game just because Lawrence is going to be so critical to it. We can say the same thing with Baker, right? If you're starting Baker, you almost want Lawrence to play. That way this game remains competitive in the second half and you have a shot at a potential shootout. And the Gardner Minshew at 14 will be very difficult to go out there and rank just because we don't know the availability of either Michael Pittman or Jonathan Taylor at this moment. I mean, if you are starting Minshew, obviously you are really hoping that Michael Pittman plays. Taylor will up the offense overall, but at the same time, they may skew a little bit more run heavy. So, I mean, if you are starting Gardner Minshew, I don't know if you want Taylor in there. I will say I want Taylor in there for my own teams. But dropping down to our next tier, we're going to be going with Jordan Love. Don't love the matchup for Love going up against the Panthers. I mean, their team should be very low scoring, so the Packers can be conservative in the second half. They only have an applied team total of 20.5 points. Should be a low scoring game overall. We can say the same thing between the Denver Broncos and the New England Patriots, where Russ only has an applied team total of 20.5 points. Really not going to have to throw the ball with aggression in the second half against New England. And then Geno Smith at 17 would go to the top of this tier if he's fully healthy and fully good to go. I just don't know if Geno Smith will be good to go this next week. But they do have an applied team total of 22 points against Tennessee. You have Lockett, you have Metcalf, you have JSN fully running. So I'm excited about the situation if he can get in there. And then our last tier, guys, these are the players that I do not want you starting. Levis, Carr, Howell, throw Jake Browning, throw Flacco, throw whoever the hell you want in this tier. Do not start anybody below 17 in these rankings. For the love of God, I hope you don't have to. I mean, we're in the semifinals at this point. The hope is everybody watching this video has someone ranked inside the top 9 of these rankings. I mean, if you had to go down to 10, if you have to go down to 11, I mean, if you have to go down to 12, 13, 14, that's not the worst thing in the world. But I really hope that you're not having to go all the way down to 20. Same out is going to be much lower this week than I'll be usually, just because it's a horrible matchup going up against the Jets. But I think that's all we have for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm wishing you the best of luck this week, ladies and gentlemen. And yeah, if you wanted to check out any of those pick'ems over on Underdog, you can find that link in the description, comment section. Promo code FLOCK, get you a 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers, and that Matthew Stafford special pick of more than less than half a total yard. And also, if y'all are wanting to check out our videos through the offseason, I'm not going to be posting on this channel because I know the majority of y'all don't care about fantasy football in the offseason, which is completely fine. But I am going to be uploading almost every day on the Dynasty Football Flock YouTube channel. So whenever you get a chance, go over there, see if you like it. If you don't want to talk about Dynasty, you don't play in a keeper league, completely fine. But thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. I really do appreciate you. Really hope you have a great day, and really hope we get to see you out with the live stream after the game tonight.